People on Zoom land, would you please mute during meditation? Let's do some quick check-in. So we'll start with people here. Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go first.
Sure.
I was out of town last weekend, so I actually missed a couple of days of meditation because I was having really long days at lawn bowling competition and surrounded by people. But I meditated all the other days, and I think I've been finding that sort of this go round of being focused on meditation has been feeling more peaceful and enjoyable and easier to stick with than when I try to do it as a continuation after Vipassana, the 10-day retreat, because I'm not strictly adhering to just Anapana or Vipassana technique. And I think I recall from watching the video last week that you were saying, basically through the meditation, you figure out what works for you, if I recall correctly.
Let me clarify that
Yeah.
very specifically. I do not recommend the same meditative practice for every
Right.
student, nor for the same student at every sit.
Right.
The rule of thumb is the grosser the mind, the more meditative supports.
Yes.
The subtler your mind, drop the supports away.
Yes.
Otherwise, your meditation becomes mechanical,
Yes.
and then it becomes very dry and empty.
Yes.
Is that clearer?
I didn't have any doubt about that.
Okay, that's for everybody. Going.
And so because I'm not sticking with sort of either Anapana or Vipassana, and rather just trying to be aware of my own awareness, and then using supports like, coming back to a mantra or something, it seems to be the practice itself seems to be more of an ease for me. And so I feel like it's easier for me I'm actually enjoying it rather than doing it for work, right? Like I'm doing it because I know I'm supposed to meditate and I'm going to do this technique that I've been taught. So that's my observation.
Good work.
Thanks.
Who's next?
I can go. My name's Mike. So I don't feel like a lot of great insight this week.
That's good.
And it is. I did decide to bump up 10 minutes. So I'm sitting every morning for about 40.
Excellent.
And I thought the 40 was going to hurt. 30 to 40, I thought that was just going to hurt. And I'm finding it simpler. Now, of course, next week it'll be like wrestling the whole time. But it's been really nice. And I can kind of echo what Daniel said a little bit. Like, I'm kind of looking forward to it. Like, I get up, I have my coffee, I get a couple emails, and then I do my sitting. And it's just nice. I like it.
Do you do any Lectio Divina before or something like that before you sit?
Do I now? No. I do a little puja before I start.
All right.
Yeah.
Lectio Divina is an old Christian practice where you just pick a piece of scripture or a favorite prayer and you kind of be with it before you do your sit. And in the Vedanta practice. This is our Swadhyaya, our own self-study. You can pick up one of the Vedanta scriptures. Many people do Gita because you can just open it anywhere. Just read a couple verses, which just kind of puts your mind into sacred space.
Okay.
That's for everybody.
Okay. Thank you for that. Chapter 2, verse 55.
Mm,
I'm going to work in that one too, Lance.
No, I love it.
How about you, Faz?
Yeah, I've been doing it in the morning and in the evenings. The last week has been a lot of raining. It seemed like the sound of the rain was helping me to just listen to the sound of the rain and not to let my thoughts to go everywhere. I mean, I was just focusing on that sound. It was helpful. And then looking at the sky once in a while, and I could see the clouds. I mean, there was an amazing formation of the clouds. I'm sure you noticed. And then I see how small I am in this whole universe. I mean, it kind of, I could go back again and then close my eyes and meditate. But, yeah, the last thing that you said to me is like to find some sort of a verse that would make it more spiritual while I'm meditating. Is
Well, many people, because we live busy lives, they've got the ways of the world encroaching on their mind. Oh, I've got this project of the world, and what am I going to do about the leak? And then I've got to move some money from here to there. And then when you go into meditation from that, it's kind of hard to clear that out. So finding something that inspires you, that moves your mind into a sacred place, for many people is useful. Some people, they don't need to. I just drop in. But I've been doing this for 40 some years. Does that make it a little clearer?
yes.
It's just another thing to have in your yogi's bag of tricks. Use it if it's valuable. What Daniel was saying, I have to use this technique because I've been assigned this technique. I really don't particularly care for that approach to the spiritual life. I tend to avoid recipes. I have inherent trust in the inner guru in each of you. And if you're honest and sincere and you get quiet, what you need to do becomes very clear. Just as long as you're not fooling yourselves. That's all. Anything else?
So isn't that the function of the spiritual or religious buildings like a mosque or a church, that you enter and that space and what you hear in that space takes you into that mode, into that
Can. What it can always get us stuck in ritual. And we get caught up in rules. I mean, we can just take the idea of going into a mosque and feeling incredibly sacred space. And then you turn right around and you look at what the Taliban is doing in Afghanistan. Something's wrong with this picture. You can go into a medieval church in France, like Chartres and Notre Dame, feel incredible sacredness. But then the Dominicans burnt people at the stake. There's something wrong with that picture. And no religion is immune from this.
Right.
We don't need to go into the politics in India today between Hindu and Muslim. But there are no innocent religions, because religions are human institutions. But if in those environments it leads you to the sacred, that's good. That's good. How about on the Zoom machine? Anybody want to share this week?
I'll share. Wendy here.
Hi, Wendy here.
Hi. Doing my meditation every day, and what's been being really noticed is being able to watch my thoughts much more just throughout the day, and how repetitive and boring they are.
Yeah.
And often sort of being in a very quiet place where the mind is very quiet, and then noticing like a little judgment come up or a little fear come up, and just sort of saying, no, stop that silliness, and just a lot more space.
And this is the great power of a mantra. Krishna calls japa, the silent repetition of a mantra, the king of yogas. And the reason is, if you go stop that to a negative thought, you get caught in this sometimes. Now, I don't want you to think about the elephant. Now, do not think about its long trunk. Do not think about its massive tusks. Absolutely do not think about its large tree-like limbs. How successful have we been? Is that making sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So if the fear or the resentment comes up, this is where Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Turn your mind to something else. Turn your mind to something that's karmically neutral.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And
Very subtle difference there.
No, I totally get it. I do have one question, which is, last week you were talking about in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talking to Arjuna about, the where to dwell is in the sattvic mind of the three gunas, but also to, transcend it. And Arjuna saying, well, which is it? And I think you said you were going to talk about that this week.
We can.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't let me forget that.
That just keeps coming.
I kind of shortened the lecture a bit last week. I apologize.
So anyway, that just keeps coming up as curiosity about that piece.
All right. I will dive directly into that.
Okay. Super.
Who's next? Well, I guess no one else would. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I meditated. Every day. Just normal things. Mind doing its own thing, and nothing particular to report.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's Cheska. I meditated every day this week, which is improvement. I actually meditated for an hour one day sitting out on my deck, and that was beautiful, looking at the trees and the hillside and hearing the sounds. Yeah, what I'm noticing is a lot more space around feelings and fewer negative thoughts. And when they do come by or come around, they're less. They have less identification with them, so they're easier to go, to sort of let them pass. So that's really positive.
Who's next? Okay, let me review what we covered last week and then we'll move into tonight's material. So we had our talk on the three gunas. Tamas, when the mind is indolent, shut down, depressed, its qualities are delusion and illusion. Rajas, the quality of mind of activity, doing, ambition. All of our suffering is in that state. That's where I have jealousy, envy, competition, disappointment, all of those things. Fear, anger, all that stuff. Sattva, the mind state of non-activity, meaning my mind isn't needing to do a whole lot. My mind is clear. I see the world as it is. I'm aware of my own self nature. I'm moving with the flow of life. Now, what Gita says is, "Oh, Arjuna, be you beyond the gunas," meaning I am not any of these three mind states. I'm ever the knower of them all. And the mind will move through them. Now, it's not just a circle, it's actually more of a spiral. As we do more and more spiritual practice, the overall quality of the mind gets more and more sattvic. So the sattvic mind is the most happy mind. So when we have mature renunciation, mature detachment, mature acceptance of life on life's terms, when the struggler has evaporated, when I'm very clear that no personal sense of self is real, this is a sattvic mind. But I may get triggered the next minute. Or I may wake up with the flu the next day. So the basic principle is you can't move the mind from tamas right into sattva. You usually have to move it through rajas. Story I like to tell. So this person has a job they hate. It's government bureaucracy. They got the job because they didn't have to work and nobody could fire them. And then they have a dream. They've always wanted to be a baker. Well, when they had the government job, that was a tamasic way of life. Are you comfortable?
Yeah,
You want me to, Pillar, want to get a back chair?
No,
Try it?
good, thanks. I'll lean against this chair.
So the person opens a bakery and now they're doing what they love, but now they have a whole new set of problems. What if it fails? What if somebody doesn't come to work? What if the customers don't like my stuff? What if I don't make enough money? The bakery down the street is doing better. Any of us who've been self-employed know this one. So all of a sudden, when you're in the rajasic mind state, you've got a whole new series of problems. You're not shut down anymore, hating your miserable life, but you've got all the Rajasic stuff going on. So then practicing your karma yoga, do it as service, let go of your attachment to the fruits of action. You move the mind into sattva. Does that make it a little clearer, Wendy?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Very helpful.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions on working with the three gunas that we talked about last week? So tonight, the basic lesson is, what is the ego and how is it different from myself, the self? And I'm going to use the map of what we call the Panchakosha, the five sheaths. And you want to think of these like these little Russian nesting dolls. Have you ever seen those? There's a big one and you open it up and there's another one inside, and you open that one up and there's a smaller one inside, you open that one up, tinier one. Well, when you open up the last one, there's nothing there. So let's look at these five nested sheaths or bodies. And we're going to kind of go back and review what we did on lesson 5, subject-object discrimination. Because everything that we're going to talk about here is not self. So the first level is the food tube. It's literally called the Annamaya Kosha. Annam means cooked rice, food. It's the physical body. It's born, it grows up, it gets old, it gets sick, and it dies. It consumes a mountain of food and produces a mountain of poop. And it's food for worms in the end. If you are a person who has enormous attachment to the body, here is an exercise. So maybe you're attracted to guys with a six-pack. Oh, that's really cool. Well, if it's so cool, why don't you cut it open and play with the muscles and the intestines? Oh, I like a woman's breasts. Well, cut them open and deal with all the glands and the blood vessels. It's really not very appealing. Just go for a week without washing it and see what it's like. It's pretty disgusting without a lot of work. That's the physical body. Most importantly, it is an object of awareness. Take a deep breath. I know the breath in the body. I am not the body. Next level is what we call the Pranamaya Kosha, the energy body. Sometimes I'm full of energy, sometimes I'm rude. If you do a martial art, you work with the chi or the ki, that's prana. If you're a hatha yogi, you do pranayama and you visualize moving the energy around in your body. Or if you studied things like Reiki, you learn to channel energy. But energy is an object of awareness. You are not energy. I know energy. Not so. Next comes the Manomaya Kosha, the mental sheath. The scriptures say the mind is the world and the world is the mind. Can't remember if we used this on lesson 5, but one of the great images that Ramana Maharshi used, yourself is like the lamp in a movie projector. Your mind is like the images on the film. Your world is the images on the movie screen. If you want to know what you believe, take a look at your life. Nobody else did it. Those unconscious impressions in the mind, which we've accrued through lifetimes, are the film that gets projected out into my life. You meet one person, oh, life is terrible, the sky is falling, it's all gonna end, and people are terrible, and we should wipe out humanity, and man is out to get you. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. That's some people's world. Other people live and move and have their being in God. What's different? Mind. So the yogi wants to understand that what I experience out there, at least my interpretation of it, is my mind's projection. But the mind and its attitudes and projections are things of which I'm aware. I know my feelings. I know my judgments. I know that this is good. I know that I think that's bad. All these mind states. I am not my mind. I'm the knower of mind. Not so. Now we get to the subject matter of tonight's lesson. It's known as the Vijnanamaya Kosha, frequently translated as the intellectual sheath. It's where we determine the suchness of something. For example, I may have talked about this before. If I go out to Ocean Beach and I'm sitting on the beach and I look out and I see something white, what does the intellect do? Is it a boat? Is it a buoy? Is it a container ship just before it's dropping below the horizon? What is it? It's a sailboat. That's my intellect that determines the thatness, the suchness of things. It identifies things. Now, the mind will follow right after that. Oh, it looks like a beautiful boat. I love to sail. I remember going sailing with my dad as a kid. Oh, maybe someday I'm going to have a sailboat. Or maybe I'll take a cruise on a big 5-masted sailing cruise ship. That would be so cool. That's my mind creating world. But just direct perception is this intellect. Now, listen very carefully. In the subtle intellect, in the Vijnana Maya Kosha, is a particular thought called the karta. Karta means the doer. In the Vijnana Maya Kosha, what it does is it attributes to the self the qualities of the not self. I am Jim. I am male. I am 74. I'm fat. This is attributing to myself the qualities of the body. Oh, I'm getting old. I went walking today. I had to sit down. I just don't have any energy anymore. That's attributing the qualities of the Pranamaya Kosha to myself. Oh, I'm so angry at the politics. Oh, I'm so angry at the church. And I'm really angry at so and so and such and such. How could they do that to me? I'm so upset. These are the qualities of the Manomaya Kosha. And I attribute the qualities to the self. I am not those feelings. I am not those judgments. Not self. Now, in the Vijnanamaya Kosha, listen carefully. This karta, this doer, is not bad. It's not evil. We could not function in the world without it. I went to Kaiser today to have a hearing test. I got on the bus. I took the number 12 there and the 51 coming home. I stopped and had Mexican food for lunch. That's not problematic as long as if I understand that that karta is not me. It's a function in the subtle intellect. We watch ego thicken and thin. I think someone once told me that the most common phobia in the United States is public speaking. I was talking with a friend who had to do a presentation among a whole bunch of people. They were so nervous and upset. Oh, worried about you fast. Is your back hurting?
A little bit, but I'm.
Do you want
stretching.
some Tylenol?
No, no, thanks. I'm
Do
good.
you want to stretch out on the couch?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
All
It's just that I gotta change my position.
right. So when we're having this self-obsession, this self-absorption, ego thickens, or if somebody is critical of us. What was the expression I learned last week? PIP in the tech world, performance improvement plan. Anybody ever gotten one of those at work? That's what they give you just before they fire you. Oh, I'm not doing it right. Ego thickens. If we're totally absorbed in something in the world, listening to music, or maybe out dancing, making love, totally engaged in a project, ego will thin out. But do you not see it thicken and thin? If you can see it, it isn't you. Now, the word ego that we have in English, I think it actually was coined by Freud. Is that right?
That sounds right.
And it's merely from the Latin, ego, which means I am. In Sanskrit, we have words that are juicier. One of them is ahankara. Aham is the first person pronoun. Kara comes from the root kri, which means to make or to do. We get words like karma, action, karana, cause. So ahankara means I maker thoughts. I'm tall, I'm short, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm successful, I'm a failure, I'm this, I'm that. I am fill in the blank. Another one, and this is my favorite, this is one we find in the Gaudapada Karika, Mandukya, Jiva Bhavana. Jiva is usually the word we use for the sense of individuality. Bhavana means an attitude or a feeling. But the important thing to understand is this ego sense is not an entity. It's not something solid. One of the greatest images for it in the spiritual literature is the light of a lamp. We would probably say the light of a candle today. So if you have a candle in a room with no wind, the flame looks like a solid, still thing. But is the flame solid and still? Is it?
No.
What is it?
It's the burning of the.
It's the constant oxidization of the gases. It's an event. That's what ego is. So when we get questions like, Daniel, are you really happy? It's a stupid question. Well, I'm happy, and then my nose itches, and then I think I need to go to the bathroom, and then I'm wondering what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow. Are you getting what I'm talking about? There's no solid self. But because I do not understand that, I keep trying to secure it. I keep trying to make it okay. I keep thinking it can be threatened. All of my psychological efforts are about trying to make that self okay. And they are always doomed to failure. It is like trying to sweep your shadow to keep it clean. Another great image the scriptures will use for egoism. It comes about like your identity in the dream. So in the dream, I have a dream body, and I have a dream ego identified with it. I see a dream world. I have dream thoughts and feelings. But where does that dream me go when I wake up? It's merged into the waker. Well, not really. I have gone nowhere. The dream just went poof. Gone. Wasn't real. Now, there's a sheath more subtle than the Vijnanamaya Kosha. It's called the Anandamaya Kosha. It's the bliss sheath, which we experience when we satisfy a desire and most completely in deep sleep. But we are not unconscious in deep sleep. For example, if you close your eyes, you are not blind. You are seeing the back of your eyelids. But if you close your eyes, you can't see any of the objects. Likewise, when the pure ignorance of the Anandamaya Kosha comes over the mind, it is like seeing darkness. But you were there. One of the ways we can prove it is through the law of memory. The rememberer and the experiencer must be the same entity. Foz, did you sleep well last night?
Yes,
Did I sleep well last night?
I don't know.
Why not? You weren't there. But you were the witness of your mind being folded up. Great, wonderful sleep. And in the morning when you woke up, you could remember, oh, what a restful sleep. I didn't move all night. Isn't that your experience?
Yes.
You see? So you are the knower of even pure ignorance and deep sleep, the avyakta, the unmanifest. Now in a mind made very still, introvert the attentive faculty. what is that by which the not self is known? The body, the energy, the feelings, the thoughts, even the ego sense, even ignorance. But itself is never known as an object. And I can't say I am unknown. I know I am. How do you know you are you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, or smell yourself. You don't emote yourself. You don't think yourself. Yet you know you are. Who knows it? I do. What's the instrument for knowing the self? The self itself. Not known as an object, but it's not unknown. And fundamentally of the nature of the space of consciousness. Nirupaham without a form. Nirmalam without a taint. Chidakasha, the vast, empty space of purity. And fundamentally different than this karta, this doer in the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So the subtlest of all discrimination is to be able to discriminate between this shadow self and the real self. In a mind made very sattvic, when I reduce the frequency and volume of thought, meditation, I introvert the attentive faculty and notice the knower. Something there, it's me, but it's fundamentally different from that jiva bhavana, that feeling that I am a person. Fundamentally different than that ahankara, those constantly flowing I am thoughts. So the way out is to see this fake news self, this phony self. Now, one of the classic images that we have is the snake and the rope. Have we talked about the snake and the rope in this class before?
I think so.
You have many classes. Can you remember it, Foz?
That the rope moves and you think it's a snake.
Well, not that it moves,
I mean-
but I hallucinate a snake onto it. So the snake is the ego sense. The rope is who I really am. Now listen carefully. If I take out a baseball bat and start banging away on that snake, is that going to work? So any attempt to beat yourself up, why did I do that? I'm such a piece of crap. Oh, is only trying to beat up the snake. Or I put a pretty dress on my snake. Maybe that'll help it be a rope. This is what the psychologists call reframing. Oh, my boss just read me the riot act today. He told me I'm a lazy bum, and that if I don't change, I'm going to get canned. So the psychotherapist says, well, he was probably having a bad day. You're okay. I'm sure you're a good worker and you're doing very well. You're trying the best that you can. It's okay, dear. That's called reframing, meaning I'm going to come up with a new ego story to try to make my sense of self feel better. Do you get that? It is always doomed to failure. It might be useful if you have crushing low self-esteem and you need to become a little healthier ego. But yoga says, drop all personal sense of self. Met a person this past week who also happens to be a yogi of sorts. And he says, are you enlightened, Jim? I'm enlightened. I'm very happy for you. But are you enlightened, Jim? It's hard to talk about this in public. I'm not a person. I'm a space of consciousness. I'm not a person in ignorance. I'm not some fabulous wise guy. Chidananda Rupaham Shivoham Shivoham. I am of the form of bliss consciousness. Shiva. Suspicious. Sangoham, Sangoham, Puna Puna, Sachidananda Rupaham, Aham Mevaham Avyayaha. Unattached, unattached, unattached again. I'm the form of pure existence. Pure consciousness, bliss absolute. I am that. Now, do we have any questions about this? This is the subtlest and the deepest part of the teaching. And if it's difficult to grasp, don't worry about it. If you continue to meditate, continue our study, as your mind becomes more subtle, this will become clearer. Now, one of the traps that we find on the spiritual life is what the great Tibetan Lama called Spiritual Materialism. Have you ever read Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism? Came out in the 70s. Wonderful book. And what he addresses is the very common pitfall that as we enter into this work, we make the path itself another ego possession.
Possession.
Possession. Oh, yes. I'm going to change my name. I'm now Uggabugananda. And when I go to parties, yeah, I'm spiritual now. Everybody's got to know how happy I am. And then you want to just dump all your spiritual knowledge on people. Oh, yes, I've met this guru and I've met that guru and that guru said hello to me. And here's a picture I have of myself with that guru. This is when the path itself becomes a possession. And if we fall into spiritual materialism, probably you will have an event in your life which shows you what a hypocrite you are.
Mm.
You'll uncontrollably start screaming and yelling at someone you care for very much. Or you finally have to tell the truth. I've been stealing. Or you cheat on your partner. Don't tell anybody. So listen very carefully. Strive for authenticity. Don't try to be a spiritual person. The first real commitment to the abandonment of that personal sense of self is our willingness to show up authentically. It's a wonderful slogan. You can't save your face and your ass at the same time. So the yogi learns to tell the truth about what's going on. If I'm not my mind, who cares if I've had a day where I was just filled with sadness all morning? If I'm not my personality, who cares if, oh God, I really got angry at someone I care for and I did stupid things and said things I regret. But if you want to rationalize, reframe, hide it, oh no, it's all okay, it's all okay, it's all okay. I'm really a yogi, I'm good, I'm spiritual, I'm spiritual. That's not an effective strategy. Any thoughts on this?
So this analogy of the Russian toys that you keep opening it up, that you're not the body, you're not the energy, you're not the intellect, you're not the thought. And the last one is just empty.
The smallest little doll is this karta, the sense I'm the doer, this ahamkara, the ego sense, this jiva bhavana. And when you see, no, I'm not that little doll, you open it up. And there's just the space of pure awareness. And then it's a wonderful metaphor, because if you open up the biggest of them, what's inside? Space. It's all just vast emptiness of the space of consciousness, which pervades every one of these koshas, these sheaths. I mean, who sees the lamp? I do, right here in the most ordinary, mundane, physical world. I pervade the phenomenal world. I perceive it. As well as in the deepest meditation, when I can see the difference between the self and chitaya, the shadow self. All right, let me see if I've got everything I'm supposed to cover. Would you read number
Yes.
7 for me, please?
Yes. What is the ego? How is it different from the self? Dropping ego, the paradox of giving up looking good. Embracing our suffering, reframing the goal of life, continued practice.
Okay, so dropping this personal sense of self. So here's a mantra for you. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. If I'm in that state of jiva bhavana, I think I'm a person, my mind's going to present some goal, and then I'm going to have to furrow toward that goal. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, then the world will be okay, or I'll be okay. Yoga says, rather than getting all caught up in the struggle of ego, drop the struggler. Let go. Remember who you are. That's the practice. To simplify it, Ramana Maharshi gave us the practice Goham, or if you're a Tamilian, Namyar. Who am I? When a perception comes, to whom did this occur? To me. Who am I? Turn the mind back on the self. If a feeling comes up, to whom did this occur? To me. Who am I? Keep turning the mind back. Source. Now, that last idea, reframing the goal of life. Many of us enter the spiritual life. I'm going to learn to meditate. I do that after my Pilates class and before my rock climbing. You know, it's just another thing that for balance and health and life. And I want to develop tools to make my life work better, to make my relationship better, to make my health better. So I'm not so reactive at work, so I can get a lot of money and get a house, etc. I use it. I think that spirituality is a way to make life better. No blame. It actually will help with that. But if we keep on the path, all of a sudden at some point it's going to turn upside down. And we see that the goal of life is moksha, Who can tell me what moksha means? Liberation. I want to be free. I want to cast off my concerns. Know who I am and abide in that and live from that place as a continuous experience. Being sthita prajna, person of steady wisdom. Then this world becomes what Ram Dass used to call grist for the mill. So I had a fight with my wife. She becomes my guru. If I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha, the affliction. Guru shows up as my wife. The house has leaks, and the goddamn contractors are a bunch of idiots. We were talking about houses. They are your guru, Faz. Teaching, letting go, patience, acceptance, being solution oriented, not making it about me. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Stock market crashes. Oh my God, my 401k, it's gone. I don't have attachment. I think that's where my security is. That's my guru. Let it go. Let it go. Then everything in life becomes useful. It's the fertilizer on the field of Bodhi. And in India, what do they use to put on the fields? The fertilizer. You've been to India. What do they use? Do you
Actually,
remember?
I've not been.
I thought you had been.
No, I want to go.
Shit.
People shit, right? Yeah.
Night soil.
Okay, got it. Nice.
Yeah. So my shitty life becomes the fertilizer for the field of the awakened state of mind. Okay, that's all I have tonight. We have one more lesson tomorrow. Or next week, rather. Any last thoughts or comments before we sign off?
Jim, I have a quick question about the doer, I think you called it the karta.
Karta, K-A-R-T-A.
So it seems to me that it is a function of thought that attaches any action to this doer, but the action, where does the action just comes from consciousness, sort of being funneled through this.
No.
No.
It comes from the force of the past.
Okay.
We'll work more on that next week.
Okay.
But the thing to know is you're not it.
Right.
You're not it.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Om Tat Sat. Over here.